Hello, we are on Lesson 74 in A Course in Miracles workbook. There is no will but God's. The idea for today can be regarded as the central thought toward which all our exercises are directed. God's is the only will. When you have accepted this, you have recognized that your will is His will. The belief that conflict is possible has gone. Peace has replaced the strange idea that you are torn by conflicting goals. As an expression of the will of God, you have no goal but His. There is great peace in today's idea, and the exercises for today are directed toward finding it. The idea itself is wholly true, therefore it cannot give rise to illusions. Without illusions, conflict is impossible. Let us try to recognize this today and experience the peace this recognition brings. I'm going to go ahead and read. Peace has replaced the strange idea that you are torn by conflicting goals, 106. The conflict here is between the goals you see as reflecting God's will and the goals you see as meeting your own needs. Ha. Begin the longer practice periods by repeating these thoughts several times. Wait, I'm trying to think if that's where I left off. I'm sorry. I'm just going to read from 2 on. There is great peace in today's idea, and the exercises for today are directed toward finding it. The idea itself is wholly true. Therefore, it cannot give rise to illusions. Without illusions, conflict is impossible. Let us try to recognize this today and experience the peace this recognition brings. And yes, I could always listen to that more than once. Sorry. All right, so begin the longer practice periods by repeating these thoughts several times, slowly and with firm determination to understand what they mean and to hold them in mind. There is no will but God's. I cannot be in conflict. Then spend several minutes in adding some related thoughts such as, I am at peace. Nothing can disturb me. My will is God's. My will and God's are one. God wills peace for His Son. Anything I experience that is not peace is not God's will. During this introductory phase, be sure to deal quickly with any conflicting thought or conflict thoughts that may cross your mind. Conflict thoughts here appear to be thoughts about a situation in which your will seems to be clashing with someone else's will. More specifically, thoughts that regard this clash as real. Tell yourself immediately, there is no will but God's. These conflict thoughts are meaningless. If there is one conflict area which seems particularly difficult to resolve, single it out for special consideration. Think about it briefly, but very specifically. Recognize the particular person or persons and the situation or situations involved. And tell yourself, there is no will but God's. I share it with Him. My conflicts about cannot be real. After you have cleared your mind in this way, close your eyes and try to experience the peace to which your reality entitles you. Sink into it and feel it closing around you. There may be some temptation to mistake these attempts for withdrawal, but the difference is easily detected. If you are succeeding, you will feel a deep sense of joy and an increased alertness rather than a feeling of drowsiness and enervation. Joy characterizes peace. By this experience, you will recognize that you have reached it. If you feel yourself merely slipping off into withdrawal, quickly repeat the idea for today and try again. Do this as often as necessary. There is a definite gain in refusing to allow retreat into any withdrawal, even if you do not experience the peace you seek. In the shorter practice periods, which should be undertaken at regular and predetermined intervals today, say to yourself, "There is no will but God's. I seek His peace today." Then try to find what you are seeking. A minute or two every half hour with eyes closed, if possible, would be well spent on this today. And I skipped 108 again because that's what I always do. I just see right past them. So if you are succeeding, you will feel a deep sense of joy and an increased alertness rather than a feeling of drowsiness and enervation. Jesus is cautioning us against slipping off into a peace that is sleepy, sluggish, and drained of vitality, enervated. This would turn meditation into withdrawal, an act of withdrawing from life's conflicts, into a drowsy pseudo-peace. I'm just laughing because I can so relate to this. Instead, the peace we are seeking, the peace that is a sign of a successful meditation, is characterized by a deep sense of joy and an increased alertness. Thank you for reading with me, and I'm going to go ahead and read the commentary because I started and now I'm just going to do it every time. Let me find my page. Aha! That's 73. I will there be light. 74. There is no will but God's. I cannot be in conflict. Practice instructions. The purpose of this lesson is to realize that you cannot be in conflict because your will and every will is really God's will, and to experience the peace that comes from this fact. Yay! There is no will but God's. Practice periods. Longer, 2 times for 10 to 15 minutes. Say, "There is no will but God's. I cannot be in conflict." Repeat these sentences in a special way, several times slowly and with firm determination to understand what they mean and to hold them in mind. Then, for several minutes, let related thoughts come. Remember your training in this. If thoughts intrude about conflicts in your life, quickly dispel them by saying, "There is no will but God's. These conflict thoughts are meaningless." If a particular conflict keeps intruding, single it out. Briefly identify the person and situation involved and say, "There is no will but God's. I share it with Him. My conflicts about cannot be real." You'll probably need to keep your eyes open for this part to consult the sentences you need to repeat. At this point, your mind should be clear and ready to turn inward. The rest of the exercise is a meditation in which you sink down and inward into the peaceful place where God's will is your will. If you are succeeding, you will feel an alert, joyful peace. Do not let yourself slip off into a drowsy pseudo-peace. Repeat the idea as often as you need to in order to draw yourself back from this. Oops. The comments in paragraph 5 and 6 are among the most important remarks on meditation in the workbook. You should carry their counsel into every meditation. On the one hand, they tell you not to mistake meditation for a withdrawal from life's conflicts into a mental fantasy land. On the other hand, they urge you to do everything in your power to avoid such withdrawal. This means do not let yourself float off into that sleepy pseudo-peace that meditation can so easily turn into. Real peace is alert and joyful, not sleepy and sluggish. When you start to go off into withdrawal, repeat the idea to draw your mind back. Do this as often as necessary. It is better to do this over and over and never find the peace you seek than to drift off into that drowsy haze, which I'm about to enter soon. Sorry. Um, I like this. This is great, helpful information about the meditation aspect of A Course in Miracles because it's very important. It's a big part of practicing these lessons. Now, they're telling you how to do it, but I'd like to add that any effort is not wasted. There's no wrong way. There's no guilt. No guilt. No guilt. Just have fun. Let's just do the best we can, and God will work with that. Amen. Anyway, frequent reminders at regular intervals that you predetermine. Suggestion every half hour for 1 or 2 minutes. Say, there is no will but God's. I seek His peace today. Then do a brief meditation in which you try to find that peace with eyes closed, if possible. And I love these moments throughout my day, and it's funny, I could just be, when I enter that peace, that joy comes, and it's just like, I feel like I'm exploding in joy, and it's beautiful. Anyway, commentary. The lesson states that this idea can be regarded as the central thought toward which all our exercises are directed. The Course makes similar claims about ideas that seem quite different from this one. For instance, there is no world. All of the ideas so identified, however, boil down to what we call non-dualism. That is, God is unopposed. Nothing apart from Him and His creation exists. There is no devil, no power that opposes God, nothing that exists independent of Him, and therefore capable of having a differing will. To say that nothing can have a will that differs from God's must include ourselves. The result of believing this is that conflict leaves our minds. How could our mind be in conflict if we have no will that can conflict with God's? What, though, can we say of our common experience of wanting things that we think are opposed to God, or of wanting to do what He does not want us to do, or even more down to earth, the experiencing of being torn between conflicting desires? If there is no will but God's, how is such an experience possible? The real answer is it's not possible, unless there are illusions involved. Without illusions, conflict is impossible. Conflict exists only between two illusions. In reality, there is no conflict, and reality does not conflict with illusions either. The war against yourself is but the battle of two illusions. There is no conflict between them, and the truth does not fight against illusions, nor do illusions fight against the truth. Illusions battle only with themselves. When there seems to be a will opposed to God, whether outside of us or within us, we are seeing illusions. There is no will but God's. I cannot be in conflict. This is the truth. I have often found that conflict thoughts in my mind can be diffused simply by recognizing that they are meaningless, and that the conflict cannot be real. No peace is possible if I believe that my mind can be in conflict, but when I realize I cannot be in conflict, incredible peace results. There is a very interesting observation in paragraph 5 about discerning the reality of peaceful feelings as opposed to false peace resulting from withdrawal and repression. According to 5.4, true peace brings a deep sense of joy and an increased alertness, while false peace brings drowsiness and enervation. In our attempts to enter the quiet and feel our peace, we are admonished to avoid withdrawal and to pull ourselves back to alertness by repeating today's idea. There is definite gain in refusing to allow retreat into withdrawal, even if you do not experience the peace you seek. From this, we can surmise that even conscious conflict is better than repressed conflict, although the goal is to realize the unreality of the conflict and thus experience peace. No guilt, no guilt, no guilt. And I only say that because I've experienced guilt as a result of feeling like I'm not doing it right, and that's for naught. That accomplishes nothing. It's another form of separation. Only love, only love. Another thought, these are really very detailed meditation instructions, so hold on to them. And they demonstrate that students are really expected to be trying to do these exercises for 10 or 15 minutes twice daily. And I think that's very, very important, because that is where the awakening arises, is through these instructions. I love you. Thank you for joining with me. Lesson 74, again, dealing with my hoarseness this evening. There is no will but God's. I love you. Thank you, thank you, thank you.